Hi guys, welcome to lesson 4 of English writing skills. Today is Monday, March 16th, 2020. This will be the video to cover the content from lesson 4. As you guys remember or know, we were a week behind before all of the COVID-19 closures began. So I'm posting two content videos this week, one for lesson 4, which is the draft information for the summaries, which some of you have already completed, which is great, but for those of you who have not, I wanted to do an extra lesson anyhow, so this will be covering that material, or for those who were sick or unable to come last week. Then later in the week I will also post one video for week 5, which would be the first editing quiz content, and then next week you'll get the next video for the next editing quiz content. So let's just start with a couple of updates. Last night, the Dutch government made an announcement for more closures, and the higher education restriction that was already in place, it has been now extended 1 week longer until April 6th. So we will definitely not have any more lessons this term. So it's very important that you try to stay up to date so that we can continue to get more done and less behind. I understand this time is extremely difficult and confusing. For example, I had to get up now, the lighting is so bad, but I had to get up before the sunrise so that I would be able to film this before my daughter woke up, since child care centers and daycares, they are closed. So I'm also trying to adapt and still get you guys the information as quickly as possible, and translate my in-class face-to-face content to online content. And I understand that you guys also have your restrictions and your shortcomings during this time and things to overcome. We have given an extension on all of the assignments from this term 1 week longer. So hopefully you will find that helpful. And I would like that you guys contact me if you're having personal issues or you're sick or something is going on that is really a serious reason for you not to get work done, then please contact me in advance so we can figure out a game plan for you. I would like to note then next that I have a live stream lesson planned. I did not have one planned for today. After all, I updated Blackboard with that information that I would not go on during our class time today, 9:30 to 11. My daughter will be up. I don't have childcare. My husband has to attend meetings. So I'm hoping that Thursday and Friday is still possible, given the information now that the childcare is not a possibility. Also, family members at this moment are not a possibility as babysitters for my daughter. So I'm hoping that I'll still be able to do the live stream on Thursday and Friday. If there isn't a lot of interest though, then I won't continue to do them. I've already decided not to do them for the editing quizzes. However, if I feel that there is a need between the 3 groups I have, 1F, 1G, 1H, and you guys are really determined to have a lesson where you can speak to me live and write a comment, and then I respond to it right away verbally, then I will do my utmost to make sure that I get that done. However, if I go and there's nobody on the live stream after 15 minutes, then they're 30-minute live streams, not the full 90-minute blocks. And if there's nobody there after 15 minutes, I'm just essentially talking to myself. So I will discontinue talking to myself after 15 minutes if there are no viewers and no students taking notes and asking questions and present. Okay, so that's the information there. Mainly, if you have questions from this content that I'm posting today, you can reply below, comment below, and if I see that there are a lot of questions, then I will definitely address that before the live stream, so that I can prepare properly and answer those questions in the live stream then, because I can do a lot on Blackboard with the class threads, with the discussion boards, and with with email or with whatever other written word content that we have. However, there are certain things that are just easier to answer verbally and to explain verbally, and I would like to be able to provide that to you guys throughout the rest of this term. Okay, and I can make an FAQ, which is frequently asked questions. Should there be many questions before Thursday about the content, then I can do that in the live stream as well. I think that would be very handy. And then you can also continue to ask questions in the comment section, as well as the ones that were asked in advance as a comment either on this video or in Blackboard, per email, however you decide to do it. I do ask that you please stick to Blackboard as much as possible, or the comment section of these videos, because that just is easier for me to contain and organize than if I get emails from all of my different students throughout the week. Okay, and the next point that I would like to go over is the module guide. So a few things that you guys should know before today's lesson. You had required reading, you had also the module guide to look through, and you have on Blackboard a lesson 4 content kind of package from me. So if you would like to press pause on this video, make sure that you get access to your module guide, your Little Brown Handbook for Unit 3, Chapter 3, and also open up Blackboard, go to Class Threads, go to your class, and then you will see there's a content folder in the Class Threads, which is labeled as Week 4, and then it has the content in there. And you can follow along and look at that. So just press pause right now and then play again. Welcome back. Okay, so you have your module guide available. You should open that right now and go over to page 23. That is the information regarding peer review. It is important that you guys review that and get some extra information before you really go ahead and do peer review for the others if you haven't already. Even if you have already, then you should still review it if you didn't before you did the peer review, so that you can look over your own paper and perhaps another student's paper again before the deadlines for the summaries. And that's on page 23, 24, 25, and 26. So make sure you're familiar with the information on those pages from this week in the module guide. Okay, now the next thing I want you guys to do is to open up the Little Brown Handbook to page 60. Now note, this is I wanted to do a split screen recording. I've learned how to do a screen recording over the weekend, but I have not yet had enough time to play with the video/screen option for making videos. So unfortunately, you will not be able to see my screen, my Little Brown Handbook in this video, but I will in the editing videos definitely have that available for you guys. But as of right now, if you can open your Little Brown Handbooks to page 60, I also don't have a hard copy of the book because it's in my desk, unfortunately, at work at The Hague University. But if you go to page 60, you will see that there's tips there for how to start and how to keep writing a draft. So if you've hit writer's block, or you just don't know where to start, or you've written a bit but you are feeling stuck that you don't know where to go from there, read through those suggestions and ideas. Again, this is not only for your summary writing skills, but also for your editing skills that you will be quizzed on in the editing quizzes. So that's important to go through. You can also see below that information about how to start and keep drafting. You can see an example of revisions made to an essay, and examples are always very useful for students. So you should look through that one as well. If you haven't already, you should have in theory have done that already. And then it goes on to explain the differences between revising and editing. The main point that I want to drive home from that section: what is revising work? What is editing work? Revising work is more the idea. Does it make sense? Is it coherent? The kind of broad general picture. Whereas editing is where you go in and you do the nitty-gritty. You do the changes in the grammar, the spelling changes. You rewrite sentences. You really go into detail. Now, students often start revising, and when they're revising, they see a spelling mistake. They see a sentence that doesn't really make sense. They try to fix their grammar and they go into detail and blah, blah, blah. Please try to avoid the temptation to edit while you're revising. They should be two separate processes. You revise and then you edit. Then you revise and then you edit. The reason for this is that often when you're further along in the process and you've looked at your paper a few times and you're revising it, you realize that not all of the information in your paper is relevant, or you needed to spend more, put more attention to a certain topic, or you need to change certain body paragraphs to support your thesis statement more, or you need to change your thesis statement in your introduction because the body paragraphs ended up taking a turn that you didn't expect, and you started with the introduction and thesis, and now you have to get them to line up with each other. And that's okay to do that back and forth. In fact, it's good. It's what is needed in the writing process. However, if you spent a lot of time editing content that is not being used in the final draft because you were editing while revising and you didn't have that extra information that you had after revising several times, then you've wasted a lot of time editing content that's not even in your final paper. You also lose the big picture and the flow if you start editing sentences in the middle of reading the whole paper. So it's extremely important to remember those are two separate processes. It will help you, and it won't only be quicker, but it will also help you to have a more organized, coherent paper. And when you're doing peer review, please remember that as well. Read through it, get the big picture, think about the main things they need to change, what was clear, what was not clear, those general comments and feedback that you want to give, and then go back in and look at editing, look at where they have spelling mistakes, look at where they have grammar mistakes, give suggestions, make suggestions. Okay. Now I just want to quote from the Little Brown Handbook on page 63, if you would like to pause the video and go there. On page 63, it says, think of revision and editing as two separate things. In revision, you deal with the underlying meaning and structure of your essay. In editing, you deal with the surface, manner of expression, clarity, and correctness. So don't waste time going through what's on the surface, the grammar and the spelling, when you need to look at the structure still and the overall main point of your paper. If that's not there, you shouldn't be doing the surface information. It's like trying to wrap a present before putting the actual present in the box that you're wrapping. You need to make sure the box is filled with the present before you wrap it. So you need to make sure you have a nice clear outline and a draft that really covers the main points with a clear structure, clear introduction, done maybe in the funnel style, general information, transition to topic, thesis statement. Every single body paragraph has a clear structure. Try to apply textus, topic sentence, example evidence, explain, analysis, and summary. And remember that textus doesn't always have to take place in that order. The topic sentence and summary do have to come in that order, but the example that you use or the evidence that you use and the analysis, they can kind of come more than once, or they can come in a different order than EXA. That's just an acronym to help you remember to include those things. But the topic sentence does begin the paragraph, and the summary or linking sentence at the end does end your paragraph. So that's important to try to look at as well. That structure is extremely important to look at and mostly finalize before you actually start editing. Okay, so my next point, make sure to go to Unit 3C of the Little Brown Handbook and read it really carefully before you revise or edit your own work as well as others, the peer review, especially for others, because nobody wants a useless peer review. Don't waste, that was my other line. There's many good tips in there. So when you follow those tips, then you'll be able to provide better revisions and editing work for yourself as well as for the students that you're doing peer review. So make sure to check out Unit 3C. And then below that, there's an example that shows some things to look at when you're revising and editing. And then below that, there's a checklist for editing on page 74. So on page 74, you can take a look at that checklist, see if you've done the things that you need to do before you submit a draft or before you submit a peer review. Okay. Now, I've mentioned revising and editing, and I mentioned using the Texas format for our paragraphing. We also spoke last week in my video recap and in class. For those of you who had class with me last week, we really looked at the outline structure from the module guide of Introduction to English Writing, and that we used a condensed version of in week 7 for the argumentative essay, where you have that triangle or the funnel introduction, how you start, and the topic sentence, main idea, concluding sentence, for each of the main idea body paragraphs, and then how the conclusion. What I've done is I've adapted, full disclosure, I've adapted an article from the Los Angeles Times that was a review of a documentary on Netflix. So I've taken their content, I've cut out some of it, I've rewritten parts of it to make it fit an academic essay structure versus a journalistic article. It is about the documentary Icarus. So if you are looking for something to watch on Netflix, I would say it was okay. It was interesting, very informative in some ways, a bit chaotic in its structure, so a difficult film to summarize, which is why I chose to provide a summary on something that was a bit more difficult to summarize, in case you're finding it difficult to summarize your TED Talks, because TED Talks or documentaries aren't really structured in the same way that an academic essay is. So that's why I chose something that is not necessarily the easiest piece of work to summarize. And you can go ahead and look in the week 4 lesson content folder that I've posted for you guys. I've given you a link. You should be able to see the comments on the side of the Word doc. If you can't see the comments, it'll say Daniel Terfort instead of Ashley Ford Terfort, because I use my personal laptop for work. And our Microsoft Word account is registered to my husband. So he's not the one doing the work, I am. Make sure to take a look at the comments there to see which parts of the sentences are if the paragraphs are topic sentences, transition sentences, what's analysis, what's an example, what's a summary sentence look like. So all those questions you have should be answered by reading through that and taking a look at the comments. You can see how I have introduced it. I've changed it into APA, the introduction of the source, and then you see the reference at the bottom as well. I've also posted a link to how to cite TED Talks in APA style. So in case you're still struggling with that, please let me know and have a look at that example and read that short article. So that's it for the summary. Make sure that you have posted your draft and make sure that you have done a peer review for another student as well. And that's about it for that. I want to, if you would just bear with me for one moment while I pull up Blackboard. I want to make sure I didn't forget anything. Okay, yes, so today's reading assignment was in the Little Brown Handbook, Unit 3, A through D. Essentially, you should have read everything in Unit 3 anyhow. It's only a little bit longer than that because you will have to have that material covered for the editing quizzes anyways. And then you also need to upload your complete draft. You want to make sure that you do that by this Wednesday, but before midnight, please. So before Thursday, Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. And make sure also to reply, just hit reply and then put your feedback in another student's draft in the discussion forum as well. With your draft together, and if you've already posted it, and you didn't do this, you can press reply. You need to fill in the author's peer review form on page 55 of the module guide. Make sure you've done that. And then for at least one other student, please, preferably 2 to 3 other students, use the form on page 56 for the peer review, reply to their draft, and answer the questions in that form there, please. And then make sure in your draft that you've listed who you have done a peer review for, because I will check to make sure that you have given by the deadline. You need to do your peer review for the other student by Friday, so you have until Wednesday, 11:59 p.m. to upload your own draft, and you have until Friday, March 20th, 11:59 p.m. to upload your feedback to another student. And then if you've given feedback to another student and uploaded your own draft, and that's clearly posted on the discussion forum, then you can get feedback from me, and I will do that by Friday, March 27th at 11:59 p.m. The deadline has been extended 1 week to April 3rd at 11:59 p.m. and you need to use the efforts link for in our class thread folder to submit your summary there. Yeah, and that's everything for this week, for this lesson, for lesson week 4. So let's take a look at what we are doing next week for editing quiz 1. I am hoping to post that later this week, somewhere in the next few days, so that you can get started on that as well. Your required reading is the rest of the 3rd chapter of the Little Brown Handbook, as well as the Unit 40A, Commonly Misused Words. And once you've done that reading, you can go ahead and look at the content for this lesson. I will provide a content video, as I've already mentioned, but before you watch that video, you should take a look at the, I've printed it here. This is what it looks like on Blackboard. I have given you here a PDF link in the content folder, lesson week 5 then, in our class thread. You can open that PDF and fill in the prior knowledge quiz just to see what you already know before you actually watch the lesson. And the answer is in the PDF link below that. So you can check the answers and compare what you wrote versus what the answer key has. Then you can watch the content video. Once you've done all of that, you can go ahead and do a Kahoot quiz. There's a link there. It's a challenge, so you can go into it whenever. And there's, I think, an 8-question. I'm sorry, I'm getting really nasally right now. There's an 8-question quiz that covers material that we covered in the lesson, and you can quiz yourself by doing that Kahoot quiz. There's a link as well there on Blackboard. And then also you have to look at the module guide on page 27. That is very clearly the place to find which chapters you need to read for the editing quizzes. And you need to prepare for the editing quiz 1, as well as prepare for your lesson in week 6. Before you do editing quiz 1, which is due okay, so editing quiz 1, normally the deadline would have been March 20th, this Friday, but we're getting a 1-week extension, so it is now due March 27th, editing quiz 1. So make sure you prepare for that. Do the practice quiz on Blackboard to see the format and the structure, and then you can go ahead and when you're ready, you've done enough studying and you feel good, do the editing quiz 1. It's also on Blackboard there in the left tab, and make sure that you feel structured, you have a good time when no one's going to bother you, have a good internet connection, and do that before Friday, March 27th at 11:59 p.m. And then you will also prepare for the next editing quiz, the reading content and lesson after that point. And you should do the exercise in the Little Brown Handbook. This is now homework for lesson 6. You should do the exercise on page 392 of your Little Brown Handbook called Revising Clear Sentences. And you should click the link there as well, which is an article titled The Top 20 Errors in Undergraduate Writing. And there are questions in the editing quizzes based on that article as well. So not just the Little Brown Handbook, but this one external article as well. And just make sure to leave comments on your videos if you have questions. If you leave comments and give this information about what you're still struggling with or not sure what to do with, then I can address that in the live stream videos, and I can prepare a frequently asked question section. And that's about it for today. So this ended up being a little longer than I planned. Sorry about that. But please let me know if you have any questions, and I will be posting later this week with editing quiz content as well. And I will be providing feedback as I get it. You have to make sure you give a complete draft with your page 55 author peer review form filled in, and write who you have given feedback to as well. And then I will go and double check that you gave feedback to the person you said you gave feedback to before I give you feedback on your summary then. So students who had drafts and sufficient outlines posted before the lessons last week, I already provided feedback to. And essentially I give feedback twice. When you have really a good complete draft and have given peer review feedback to another student towards the end of the term, and then what I have already done, that is kind of the initial feedback that I get. And if you hadn't completed a draft or a more in-depth outline before class last week, then you'll have missed that first feedback feedback opportunity, unfortunately, but the next one is still there. So make use of that. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Bye.